Today's adventure started off like any other. You packed up all of your ski equipment, you checked the weather, you checked the snow conditions on the mountain, and you called your buddies to let them know you're on your way out to the mountain for one last day of ski touring to cap off what was a great winter. You get to the mountain after a beautiful and peaceful drive through the wilderness and you find your friends at the meetup location. Everyone is in high spirits and everyone is pumped to ditch the cars and get out into the alpine. In town, you're a local legend. You worked through the winters as a member of the ski patrol at the local hill. You've conducted mountaineering expeditions all over the Himalayas. You have a vast knowledge of alpine climbing and ski touring, and people always come to you when they want to have a good time in the mountains. They see you as a very talented guide and just a great person to be around. They trust you with their lives. After getting all geared up, you and the 20 or so others in your group hit the trail and begin making your way up the mountain. This isn't just any other mountain though. This is Mount St. Helens, a mountain shrouded in mystery and legends that sound too fantastic to be true. You've heard the rumors floating around town of the ape men or the mountain devils that are said to roam the areas surrounding Mount St. Helens. But for the most part, you chalk it up to be nothing more than that, a rumor. There's no way anything like that could actually exist, you think to yourself. And let's be honest, you've been out to this very spot countless times, and you've never seen or heard anything out there in the wilderness to lead you to believe that these ape men, or Bigfoot creatures as they're most commonly known, actually exist, let alone be credited with the violent attack of a group of prospectors back in the 1920s. You put all these thoughts in the back of your mind and focus on the rest of the climb and spending time with your friends. The day is young and there's still so much adventure yet to come. You and your buddies make it to the top of the snow-covered peak. It's late spring and this is the only part of the mountain that still has snow. Talk about late season. You get the great idea to put your new 35mm camera to the test by recommending to your friends that you should ski down first and then set up the camera to get some good action shots of everybody else skiing down. What a better way to make memories than to literally freeze them in time and put them in an album to cherish well into the future. Everyone is excited about the idea and they send you on your way. What you don't realize, though, is that this is literally the last time you would see any of your friends, or anyone else for that matter. This is the day that you disappear forever. Hey everyone, welcome to Mountain Beast Mysteries. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the strange disappearance of Jim Carter. Jim Carter disappeared back in 1950 in the month of May. He was a professional skier, professional alpinist. He was really well known, had an incredible skill set in the mountains. He was well trained, he knew what he was doing, and for some reason, in late May of that year, he went missing while on a ski trip with like 20 other people. Very peculiar circumstances too that he went missing under. He just vanished after a massive 2-week search, sometimes involving up to 75 people. So the question is, how did Jim disappear? Now the interesting thing is that Jim went missing in what is called Ape Canyon. And we know about Ape Canyon here in the Bigfoot world because it's the site of the famous Ape Canyon incident, where a bunch of prospectors were attacked in their cabin by multiple rock-throwing Bigfoot creatures. And they just barely made it through the night and then got out of there in a hurry. It's one of the most famous Bigfoot stories out there. Is it related to this story, the story of Jim Carter and his bizarre disappearance? Possibly. We have lots of Bigfoot stories that come out of the Mount St. Helens region, just like we talked about in the last video. But before I share my thoughts on this story, let's get into what actually happened. I'll go over an article here that was first published back in 1963. The Longview, Washington Times, August 1963. Ape Canyon, the legendary home of the hairy apes of Mount St. Helens, apparently swallowed an experienced mountaineer and expert skier in May of 1950. No trace of Jim Carter, 32, who disappeared from a 20-member climbing party from Seattle was found, although teams of the Northwest's most proficient mountain rescue units combed the area for weeks. Carter's complete disappearance is an unsolved mystery to this day, declared Bob Lee, a well-known Portland mountaineer who is a member of the exclusive Worldwide Alpine Club, a leader of the 1961 Himalayan expedition, and advisor to the 1963 American expedition. Lee said he had never seen one of the monsters, but that there certainly was evidence that there was something strange on the high slopes of the mountain. He said he was convinced of this during the search for Carter. Dr. Otto Trott, Lee Stark, and myself finally came to the conclusion that the mountain devils got him, said Lee seriously. Lee, a member of the Seattle Mountain Search and Rescue Unit at the time, describes the hunt for Carter in Ape Canyon as the most eerie experience I have ever had. He said that every time he got cut off from the rest of the searchers during the long hunt, he got a feeling that somebody was watching him. I could feel the hair on my neck standing up. It was eerie. I was unarmed except for my ice axe, and believe me, I never let go of that. At this point in Lee's story, I could feel my own hair standing up a bit. Ready to shoulder packs for a safari to Ape Canyon to try and determine whether there is any truth to the ape stories, I began to feel a little dubious about the whole expedition. The rest of Lee's tales about the Seattle man's disappearance didn't do much to reassure me. It seemed that the missing man Carter had climbed Mount St. Helens with a group from Seattle on a warm, clear Sunday. On the way down the mountain, he left the other climbers near a landmark called Dog's Head at the 8,000-foot level. Carter told them he would ski around to the left and take a picture of the group as they skied down to the timberline. That was the last time that anyone had seen Carter. The next morning, searchers found a discarded film box at the point where he had taken a picture. From there, Carter eventually took off down the mountain in a wild, death-defying dash, taking chances that no skier of his caliber would take unless something was terribly wrong or he was being pursued, says Lee, who was one of the first searchers to reach Carter's ski tracks. He jumped over 2 or 3 large crevasses and evidently was going like the devil. When Carter's tracks reached the precipitous sides of Ape Canyon, the searchers were amazed to see that Carter had been in such a hurry that he went right down the steep canyon walls. But they didn't find him at the bottom of the canyon as they expected. We combed the canyon, one end to the other, for 5 days. Sometimes there were as many as 75 persons in the search party, but no sign of Carter or his equipment was found, Lee says. After 2 weeks, the search was called off. Lee, who has lived in the Northwest most of his life, recalls that there are about 25 different reports of people being attacked by ape-like men in the Mount St. Helens and Cascade areas over a 20-year period. One was a group of Boy Scouts from Centralia, he said. As near as he could remember, several of the boys who were taken off the mountain were hysterical after being attacked by the mountain devils. Director Dick Whitney of the Regional Boy Scout Office of Olympia, Washington, promised to look for a record of the incident. To our surprise, he called back to say that he had located the name of the leader of the troop involved in the incident. It was a troop under the late Scoutmaster Pease from Centralia, he said. Whitney promised to have Pease's son, who worked for the state of Washington, call the Journal as soon as he returns from vacation. It's a very strange story. This guy had lots of experience in the outdoors, in the alpine, and on skis. Like, he knew it, his friends knew it. They didn't think there was anything really to worry about. And it's interesting to hear what the search and rescue people say, that they were extremely creeped out and always had that feeling that they were being watched while they were searching for him. It's weird. He essentially fell right into Ape Canyon, right there where this crazy event happened back in 1924, one of the most famous Bigfoot stories out there. One of the few Bigfoot stories where these creatures have been documented, attacking people and actually having a crazy altercation where the people are shooting at them. Is it a coincidence that this guy went missing right where that happened? This guy was frantically trying to get down the mountain and there was no sign of avalanches. And his friends that were looking for him, they couldn't find any signs of anything really strange happening other than that it appeared that he was trying to get away from something. The weird thing is, though, is that no Bigfoot-like tracks were spotted. When you're up there on a mountain like that and the wind is blowing, it doesn't take long for tracks to get covered up. So there could have been tracks there. Maybe they just didn't see them. But they followed his ski tracks. They saw that he had skied over like a big crevasse. And, that's a that's kind of a daredevil move, very, very dangerous, very high risk, and eventually skied apparently off into the canyon to never be found again. And there was a lot of effort put into trying to find him. There was a lot of people involved, and it's just weird, that he vanished in that way, because you would think that all they would have to do is follow the tracks and that would lead them to his body, but it didn't. You're kind of like pinpointing exactly where he should be, and he should be there, and he's not. He's just gone, and the body has never been found. And that happened, over 70 years ago. So it's likely, obviously, now that his remains probably won't ever be found. It's not impossible, but highly, highly unlikely. And, if the Ape Canyon story is true, then there are some sort of violent ape-like beings out there. And, after an incident like that where, these prospectors shot at them and they had this little battle throughout the night, after an incident like that, you would think that they might be angry. And back in 1950, this was only 26 years after that. It's not 70 years like nowadays. It was a little more fresh in people's memories, a little more fresh in the history of Bigfoot. It's just a very, very strange story. It's one of the stories where you think, really, like, this guy should have been found. The way they searched the area and just the amount of skill that these people had. They were highly trained search and rescue people, and they couldn't find him. And there was like 75 people looking for him at one point. So eventually they just called off the search. They did find, the little box from the roll of film that he had put in his camera, and that's about it. It would be really interesting if that camera was found, and maybe the film was in it still, and maybe it was preserved, and some images were recorded on it. Mysterious images, maybe images of Bigfoot. Who knows? It kind of reminds me of the Dyatlov Pass incident. It's a story about a group of skiers who took off into the mountains for, however many days, and they all died. And nobody really knows how, but they had cameras with them. They were documenting their trip. And some of the photos are very mysterious. But, the story hasn't really been solved yet. The case hasn't been solved. They don't know what exactly happened. A lot of people like to think it was like a Yeti creature. A lot of people like to think it was military experiments, things of that nature, but there hasn't been any definitive conclusion as to what happened with the Dyatlov Pass incident. And the same with this story. We'll probably never find out, and it'll be a mystery forever. Anyways, let me know what you guys think of this mystery down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Mountain Beast Mysteries.